Galactica wasn't the first flying coaster. It wasn't even the second. The first flying coaster was actually made 7 years earlier, in 1997. Granada Studios Tour was a successful park that opened in 1988 that initially was based around set tours, but eventually grew to have rides based around blockbusters like RoboCop and Aliens. But for their 1997 season, they wanted something big, and no theme park is complete without a coaster. So Granada worked alongside Fairport Engineering to create something unique, something innovative, something never seen before. The world's first solo coaster? Well, it was due to the other unique element, single rider trains called flying pods. These flying pods could swing up to 40 degrees in either direction as guests flew around the track at 25-mile-per-hour speeds. It was named Skytrack after the popular Gladiators event where contestants would race using a track on the ceiling. However, its innovative trains would be its eventual downfall, as it led to a low capacity of 200 people per hour. It also seems it was too complex for its time, and it only operated sporadically, and when it did operate, it would often get stuck, needing firemen to evacuate guests. Unfortunately, after only 2 years of operation, the ride would close along with the park due to financial struggles with Granada. However, the flying coaster wouldn't be gone for long, as in the turn of the new millennium, Vekoma were looking for a new ride type to introduce on the scene. Unlike the previous flying pods used on Skytrack, Vekoma would have full 4x6 trains that you would sit in normally before tilting riders onto their back. They would then remain on their backs until the train left the lift hill and the tracks would twist 180 degrees, with the riders finally being in the flying position. The first of these built was Batwing in 2001, which opened to a mixed reception. While some loved the intensity the ride offered, many found it to be janky and uncomfortable. After Batwing, only 2 other Flying Dutchmans were made, all of which are now closed. Whilst Vekoma decided to take a break from flying coasters, John Wardley and B&M had been working on their own world's first flying coaster. But Lily, I hear you cry, how can it be the world's first if it already existed? And I would tell you, dear viewers, that's perfectly sound logic. However, I believe it was marketed this way for 2 reasons. One, Alton Towers will literally call anything and everything a world's first. Looking at you, Wickerman. And number 2, it was slightly different to its predecessors. B&M introduced their own unique type of trains where riders were held in by a vest restraint before being tilted 90 degrees in the station to be face first towards the floor in the flying position. This actually made the ride significantly more comfortable than its counterparts, as the vest restraints fit a variety of riders closer, as it's more flexible, while still supporting riders by covering most of their torso. This comfort was meant to be reflected in the ride's theme. The initial plan showed the ride themed as a quiet oasis at the back of the park. However, theming cutbacks had to be made due to the project running over budget. Unlike those that came before it, this model would have continued success, with 10 further models being built by B&M between 2002 and 2016, with even more innovations in this time, such as the pretzel loop, an inversion that starts at the highest point, dives downwards, crossing over itself and creating the pretzel shape. This inversion is very well known for being quite intense, as it produces a lot of G-force as you traverse its layout. Shortly after this, another flying coaster opened. It turns out that at the same time B&M had been working on Air, Zamperla had been working on volare. I know, I'm such a poet. But Zamperla wanted their own crack in the market, and it was different, to say the least. Unlike previous models, you would enter the volare trains by standing up, before being tilted forward into the flying position. Also, the trains themselves were quite strange, being 1 row of 4 riders. Eventually, the first one opened as Flying Coaster. So innovative. Only 2 months after Air, and reception was interesting. Many riders found the trains to be extremely uncomfortable, to the point they're still a running joke in the theme park industry over 20 years from their inception. Whilst the ride wasn't good, it offered smaller parks a more budget-friendly and a space-friendly option due to their small footprint, so small wins? Just seems like this ride type is cursed at this point. However, Vekoma wasn't finished. In the early 2010s, Phantasialand were looking for their replacement for Race to Atlantis and turned to Vekoma. At the time, Vekoma had already been working with Disney on a more refined vertical load and launch setup. In this setup, riders would unload to the train by walking on a platform towards the train and boarding it, with the train parallel to the track. This meant that, unlike former models, this coaster didn't have to physically manoeuvre the train into the flying position. The train would simply twist into it after a vertical launch. They used parts from this system, however, rather than a vertical load, the loading system would be horizontal, like usual, and the riders would board upright before the actual seats themselves would turn into the flying position. During the build-up for the ride, there was much speculation and rumours about it. Some rumours suggested that VR was going to be used on the ride. We saw how that went with Galactica. And there were some nerves surrounding the ride being made by Vekoma, which hadn't exactly been known for the best coasters in the past. Nevertheless, after 3 years of waiting, Fly soft opened to the public on the 17th of September 2020, and they loved it. They loved how immersive the theming of the land was, as well as how innovative this new flying coaster system was. And almost instantly, it was deemed as the best flying coaster in the world. We've only had one other new flying coaster since Fly opened, which is a shame in a way. Fly got me excited about future flying coasters and innovation in that area. It showed me that they didn't just have to be boring and dull, but with the right theming, they could be truly brilliant machines, which were actually interesting and fun. I hope we can see a new flying coaster soon, whether from Vekoma or another manufacturer, and I hope that they can push it so it can become a spectacle just like its predecessors. However, if you want to hear more about the first flying coaster, you should watch my video about John Wardley.